Hey guys, today I'm bringing you another video on the upcoming Michigan election. This time we're going to be watching the debate between the Tudor Dixon and Gretchen Whitmer debate that was on. Apparently it was a good one. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm going to be reacting to it live with you guys. But Tudor managed to wiggle her way up to 44% and tie the race after this. So it must have been a good one on her end. I don't know what to expect yet, so let's just dive right into it.
And on the web,
all right.
two major party candidates for governor, Democrat Gretchen Whitmer
do
and
this.
Republican Tudor Dixon,
Come on.
will debate the issues that viewers from across the state told us that they are interested in. Quickly, here's an overview of the very basic rules. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question. An automatic 30-second rebuttal will be available following the candidate's first response. After that, we move on to the next question for the next hour. The candidates' campaigns participated in a virtual drawing recently that has Governor Gretchen Whitmer giving the first 90-second opening statement. Governor, thank you for being here, and please begin.
Great. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Wood TV, for hosting us. You know, I grew up in this community about 10 miles from here. I grew up in a household that was bipartisan, and we had very different perspectives, but we shared values. And that's how I know. When we stay focused on what really matters, it's a lot easier to see we all want the same things. Great schools, good jobs, safe roads, and
Why is the
communities.
mic delayed?
As governor, I've signed over 900 bills, every one of them bipartisan. I will work with anyone who's serious about solving problems. And that's how we made the biggest investment in state history in public education. It's how we put 170,000 Michiganders on paths to higher education and skills, tuition free. It's how we secured the future.
Where's my money? I didn't get... When I applied for FAFSA, I didn't get anything.
Of the auto industry is built here in Michigan. We also paid down $14 billion of state debt, amassed a record rainy day fund, and not only did we not raise taxes, we cut taxes for small business. I think tonight...
Oh my God. That's how this is going to start already. She proposed to raise taxes, and it was shot down. One of the biggest ones was the gas tax. She proposed an absurd, I think it was 50-something cents per gallon gas tax. A cent per mile driven by trucks. All while the gas prices are going up, keep in mind. She proposed that, and it was shot down. She also, just a couple months ago, she vetoed a tax cut on the state income tax. She vetoed it. Don't even get me started, Gretchen. You're the last person that wants to cut taxes. Don't take credit. If you're voted against, you can't take credit for that tax not happening. And then you vetoed an actual tax cut, an important one. You also, just a couple fucking months ago as well, vetoed the current gas tax. And she proposed a 6% sales tax decrease rather than just cutting the 27 cents or whatever it was that's the current gas tax. There's going to be a lot of lying from Gretchen Whitmer in this debate. I can already tell. It's already got me heated up, and we're literally not even a minute in, and it's got me heated.
You're going to hear a lot of divisive rhetoric and a focus on the past from my opponent.
Good!
Here's what separates us. I still believe there is more that unites us than divides us. I believe in our democracy. I believe in decency, and that's what I'm going to focus on tonight and every minute I'm governor of this great state. Let's work together and build a better future for our kids.
There's going to be a lot of focus on my past. Good! That's the whole point. That's why you are the incumbent going up against a challenger. We're supposed to focus on your past and what you did for the state of Michigan. That's the whole point. Ask yourself, is your life better off now than it was when she went in there? Mine isn't. My life was just almost destroyed.
Mrs. Dixon, welcome to the debate. Thank you for being here.
I hate
Your
this mic
90-second
delay.
opening statement, please.
Good evening, Michigan. I'm excited to be here because for many of you, it's the first time you're hearing from me directly. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm a worker. I used to work many hours on the shop floor of a steel foundry, and I've owned a small business that was crushed by lockdowns in this state, like many of you. I also know what it is to have my children locked out of school and then have to try to get them back on track. I know how important it is to have safe communities so that we don't have to worry about our kids going out to play outside. And I'm running for governor because, quite frankly, Gretchen Whitmer has let us down. The last 4 years have been disappointing at best. Everything is more expensive, our communities are less safe, our job creators struggle to create jobs, and many are saying they think the American dream in the state of Michigan is dead. Our schools are getting worse, and our roads haven't been fixed. I'm sure you remember the promises that this governor made 4 years ago right here on this stage. She's going to try to attack me tonight to distract from her broken promises, her record of broken promises. But I'm going to focus on the future. I'm going to talk about how to make Michigan freer and more prosperous. We're going to forge a family-friendly future.
Candidates both, thank you very much. I want to move on to the first question, and it is sensitive, it's deeply personal, and it's very topical, and it's not surprising.
Mike DeLay, come on.
One of the most often question asked from our viewers was about abortion. Each one of those questions came with a point of view. It came with what people were feeling, and sometimes it was agonizing to read some of those questions. But what I wanted to do, truly do, is I want to get to where you are on this issue very clearly. Ron from Al.
What the heck?
Good job. He asked it pretty simply when he said, please clearly explain your views on abortion. And to help Ron get to that answer, I'm going to ask you, and I will hold you to this if I can. If you support abortion rights, I want you to tell me what, if any, limitations you would accept. If you oppose abortion rights, I want you to tell me what, if any, exceptions you would allow. Governor Whitmer, your first question for 60 seconds.
This is an important question. When the Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade, it took away rights that we've had for 49 years, rights that I've had my whole life are now been ripped away from women and girls in this country. Michigan could revert to a 1931 law that makes it a felony, no exceptions for rape or incest, criminalizing doctors and nurses. The only reason that law is not in effect right now is because of my lawsuit stopping it. When Roe fell, Mrs. Dixon celebrated that. She said it didn't even go far enough. She said she wanted to make abortion a felony, no exceptions for rape, incest, or health of the woman, and throw doctors and nurses in jail. That is too extreme.
That is not true.
We know that our fundamental rights are very much at risk right now. I am fighting to protect our right to choose. My lawsuit would have kept the law as it is. Our legislature wouldn't take action, and so now we have a ballot initiative to vote on. I will be voting yes.
That's Prop 3. I made a video on that. It's literally the first video I made. Go check it out. It's extreme as hell. Abortion up until birth. State taxpayers pay for it. It's insane. Vote no on it. Don't listen to Gretchen. Vote no. Go watch that if you want more information on it.
Governor, thank you. I hope in your rebuttal you will answer that question about any limitations. Mrs. Dixon.
Yeah, she didn't even answer it. She just said that her lawsuit stopped it. She wants it to be legal up until birth. Her past, she has continuously voted against putting laws on late-term abortion. She wants it up until birth. She wants it. She just won't admit it.
No, if you oppose abortion rights, what exceptions would you make?
Yes, in her first answer, she's already being dishonest. This is obviously going to be a theme for the night. I've never said that I wanted to criminalize people. I've never said I wanted this to be a felony. She just is completely making that up. My position on abortion is clear. I am pro-life with exceptions for life of the mother. But I understand that this is going to be decided by the people of the state of Michigan or by a judge. As the governor's already stated, a judge has already ruled in this case. Please understand that the governor doesn't have the choice to go around a judge or a constitutional amendment. She will lie to you tonight and tell you that the governor can do something about a constitutional amendment. But you need to understand that it's very, very clearly written, and you should understand her position. It's extremely radical. It's abortion up to the moment of birth. She's already proven it with her record of voting. She voted no on a ban on partial birth abortion. That's how radical Gretchen Whitmer is on abortion, and she'll continue lying to you now.
Governor, I'd like for you to...
I just said that. She's not wrong. She is not wrong. The governor can do nothing. If Prop 3, if people vote yes and that thing passes and Tudor Dixon's elected, there's nothing Tudor Dixon can do. Keep in mind, if it is voted no and Gretchen Whitmer is voted in, there's nothing she can do. The governor has no choice over anything that has to do with abortion. The state legislators can, but she does not. She can't just take out her power fist and just make a law legalizing it or making it illegal. These two cannot do that. Keep that in mind. So if you don't like Gretchen Whitmer, but you want abortion rights, but maybe you don't agree with Prop 2, vote no. Make them rewrite it. Make them rewrite it to something more moderate. Something that most of the country can agree, or most of the state can agree on. Make them rewrite it.
to define your position on abortion?
Mrs. Dixon is either woefully underinformed about the office she's running for, or she's lying to you. It's that simple. A governor will absolutely impact these rights. In fact, the only right abortion is still accessible in Michigan is because of my action. This is a candidate who said a
which was
14-year-old
stopped by the
child
court.
raped by a family member is a perfect example of why we shouldn't have abortion rights. I've been fighting to maintain the law as it is. That's what I support, Rick. Here's the fact of the matter. To protect our rights, we cannot trust Ms. Dixon.
Are there any limitations, Governor?
Rick, my lawsuit would have preserved the status quo with the limitations that are on the books right now. The legislature wouldn't enact it, and that's precisely why we are going to the ballot now.
Thank you.
Just
Your rebuttal,
answer
Mrs.
it.
Dixon.
She's clearly stated she has no limitation. She doesn't even want parental consent. That's what the proposal that she's out there talking about every single day says. She's lying about my position, and I can see why she's a little confused about a constitutional amendment, because this is a governor who time and time again thought she was above the Constitution of Michigan. In fact, the people had to go to the Supreme Court
Tudor!
to try to rip her powers away, even though she held on to them like grim death. This is how she's going to treat the people of Michigan. It is not how I
My
will.
God.
Our second question
Yeah,
deals with
Tudor.
part of the same issue, and on the ballot
I like
this
her.
year will
I
be
like
a
her.
proposal 3 that is dealing with abortion rights. Now, this may or may not change the conversation between the governor and the legislature, depending on what happens. But to the degree that you support or oppose this initiative, I want to know, and I want you to answer Alexander's question, and this comes from Walker. The first question will go to you. I would like to know if both candidates agree to uphold the will of the voters, no matter if Proposal 3 poses or fails. And you've already spoken to this to some degree, Mrs. Dixon, but in other words, if you're elected and Proposal 3 has passed, will you do anything to try to change it or to go around it or to somehow go against that vote?
You're right, Rick. I've been very clear on this, and I've made this statement multiple times. I will always respect the will of the voter. I don't believe that there are laws that I'm above. Unlike the governor here, who said on multiple occasions, if there's a law out there that I don't agree with, I think I should be able to go around it. And Dana Nessel, who has also decided to go around laws. I don't believe in that. I believe in our Constitution, and I believe in the people's right to decide.
Governor, if you're elected governor and Proposal 3 fails, will you then look for other legislative solutions, or will you accept that as the will of the people?
Well, I'll always accept the will of the people, Rick. But here's the fact of the matter. I still have a lawsuit that's pending in front of the Supreme Court. And so ultimately, that too will have to be decided. I think it's really ironic when Mrs. Dixon stands here and says that she will accept the will of the people. This is a candidate who still denies the outcome of the 2020 election. This is a candidate who will not pledge to accept the outcome of the November 8th election. So for her to stand here and say she will respect the will of the people when she has not even embraced the outcome of a last election or pledged to embrace the outcome of a future election tells me we cannot trust what she's saying. These are fundamental rights. We cannot make any assumption that a Dixon administration would fight to protect women's rights, women's access to health care, and families who are trying to grow their family through IVF is one additional example.
A 30-second rebuttal and plenty to talk
She's
about.
so like
Yeah, if
dramatic.
we're talking about protecting women, then we should go through a few of the vetoes that the governor has had recently. Vetoing safe housing for pregnant women. That's pretty tragic. Also, vetoing any grant funding for parents who just want to adopt and have a family. She also vetoed funding for critical pregnancy centers because she said they offered information on adoption. That's not exactly family friendly. So once again, the governor is being dishonest with you. She wants abortion to be your only option.
30-second rebuttal, Governor.
That's ridiculous. Like so much of what I think we're going to hear tonight, we know what the law is. We know what women demand and women require in their reproductive health care.
You see how much she blinks? See how much she blinks? That is just saying, like, psychologically, if you're nervous, you blink a lot because she may or may not be lying. Just saying.
We also know what this candidate for governor has said about abortion rights, about ripping rights away from our future generations of women and girls. The most important economic decision a woman will make in her lifetime is whether and when to bear a child. This candidate for governor wants to rip that away from her.
Candidates, we're going to move on, and this is going to be the first of our video questions. As you know, we ask our viewers to submit questions, and a few of them we reached out to and asked them to record the verbatim of what they asked us. And this first one, it really struck me because each of us have kids in public schools or in college, and Carson from Grand Rapids has an important question that I feel certain is shared by many of us and many of his peers. You can see it right over here.
As a high school student, school safety is a top priority for me. What will you do in order to keep our schools safe and ensure protection to all Michigan students?
We know that
All right, Kaysen.
there are so many pressures for kids in school these days, and I would expand Kaysen's question to say this. Sherry from Troy wants to know, in addition
It's a
to school
great
safety,
question.
how do you support students' mental health in schools? Governor, I'll begin with you. 60 seconds.
Sure, Rick. Well, we've made historic investments in education. That includes wraparound supports for mental health. I've listened to parents, and I know school safety and mental health of our students is paramount. I gotta tell you, as a prosecutor, I led the efforts to get prepared for a new school year, active shooter drills with our police officers. As a mom, I am furious. I'm angry that in this country, and only in this country, the #1 killer of children is gun violence. As governor, we need to act. I support secure storage. I
Is that
support
true?
background checks. I support red flag laws. My opponent, on the other hand, does not. She's proposed more guns, less oversight, and eliminating gun-free zones. She claimed not to even know what safe storage was, which is exactly what the Oxford families have been lobbying for.
That is
kind
true.
of out-of-touch governance only makes our kids more at risk when they're in our schools.
Mrs. Dixon, 60 seconds on keeping children safe in schools and their mental health.
Yeah, in 2018, our state police released a Safe Schools report. That Safe Schools report covered everything from hardening our schools to making sure that the mental health of our students was taken care of, and making sure we're seeing those flags when we see a child that's in danger. The governor hasn't even come out and talked about the fact that the Michigan Department of Ed has now come out and said there are times when we can hide a dangerous situation from parents. If a student wants to harm themselves or someone else, we should hide it from the parents. We've never seen something like this before. We're in really scary times. We need to trust our experts. When our state police come out with a report like that, we need to take it very seriously. The money that we've received so far from the federal government could have been used to harden our schools over this summer, but nothing happened. We really need to take that money and focus on how to keep our kids safe inside of those buildings.
30 seconds. Governor Whitmer, as a rebuttal, please.
The same month as the Oxford school shooting, where 4 children were murdered, 8 were injured, and the community was terrorized. Tudor Dixon posted on her social media a picture of her shooting a gun with the caption that said, "Gun control means using both hands. She is too dangerous and too out of touch to be trusted with protecting our kids." She'll put this.
Who would you rather have as a governor? A governor who knows how to defend herself, or a governor that wants certain firearms banned but then uses those firearms to protect herself but using other people to do it? That was great. I remember seeing that post on the internet. There's nothing, I don't know, is this an attack? Like,
Second Amendment before second graders every time. We cannot let that happen.
Mrs. Dixon, you have 30 seconds.
Gretchen Whitmer's made it pretty clear. She wants to make sure she takes away any protection you can have. She wouldn't allow protection even inside of the school, where we know that's the best case scenario if we have someone that can shoot down a shooter, shoot down a threat. But she doesn't want anything like that. She wants to make sure your kids are in a sitting duck zone, where there can be no guns and there's no protection.
She's a little
against them.
dramatic
The
here.
idea that she thinks that having any type of weapon is too dangerous for the state of Michigan, she'll take all of your guns away.
Mrs. Dixon, the next question goes to
that
you,
was a
and we
little,
stay on
that was
the
a little
subject of
dramatic,
schools.
Tudor. I'm not on the same
And
page there.
This is rather broad because, again, it's a subject that we got so many questions about, and I couldn't get every nuance.
I still think, though, that Whitmer's in the wrong here. Red flag laws are unconstitutional. Universal background checks would be the biggest threat to gun ownership. And people don't understand a lot about those. I'd love to make a video on universal background checks. Maybe I will. But Whitmer supports that stuff.
So I want you to talk about your view of education, how schools should operate, how you think that should work. But included in that, we know that Michigan's public schools are always an issue in a governor's race, and the same is true now. I want you to tell me within that discussion of your view on schools, the specifics as governor that you'll work to ensure that the best possible outcomes for all students in public schools are achieved, not just in the high achieving schools, but in some schools that we know are struggling.
Sure. In our schools right now, we're seeing that we have incredibly low reading scores. We've talked about this for years, but after the pandemic and kids being out of school for almost 2 years, we've gone through a crisis and we don't have an opportunity right now to catch our kids back up. Michigan is one of the only states where the governor didn't immediately implement a tutoring plan for our students. We've talked about 25 hours for every child to make sure they get back on track. We need to get our kids back to reading and back to the basics. Right now in Michigan schools, as you're seeing on the news, parents are really concerned about what their kids are being taught with this sex and gender theory and not teaching them to read, write, and do math. We've made it very clear. We want parents involved in the child's education, and we want to go back to the basics, making sure our kids know how to read, write, and do math. From kindergarten to 3rd grade, they're learning to read. From 3rd grade on, they're reading to learn. If they're missing that crucial step, we're robbing them.
Governor, let's hear what you have to say about that and how we make sure that all students have, as clearly as possible, the same opportunities in all of our public schools.
Absolutely. I love this question. 5 generations of my family went to Michigan public schools. I went to Forest Hill Schools right down the road. This is personal for me. I know that an education is what levels the playing field and creates opportunity for every person. And that's why I worked with the legislature in a bipartisan manner, and we delivered the biggest investment in public education in Michigan history. We closed the gap between districts. We ensured that we've got wraparound supports, whether it comes to mental health supports or tripling the number of literacy coaches. We're dropping class size and luring great people to go into teaching. That is how we ensure that all kids have a great education. We are making great strides. There is certainly more good work to do. You want to be a top 10 state when it comes to literacy, individualized tutors. But I need you to know this. The person bankrolling Mrs. Dixon's campaign is Betsy DeVos. Why is that? Because they want to take $500 million out of our public schools.
You have 30 seconds to respond, Mrs. Dixon.
She says she closed the gap. What she really did was close the schools. And when we talk about making sure there is no wrong path for any child, you should know that when Detroit Public Schools kept their schools closed longer, she was silent. When Flint Public Schools closed their schools down again, Gretchen Whitmer.
I have siblings that were in school during this time. Luckily, I graduated just after the Whitmer reign and destruction of our kids' educations. I have siblings that were in school, and it was destroying. I mean, their grades plummeted. It's so hard to wake up and sit in your bed and try and do 8 hours of school every single day. I couldn't imagine. I had to get up and go to school in order to learn. It's changing that environment, getting your brain in the mode of learning when you go to this place rather than trying to get it in the mode of learning when you're just in your bed. Two different things. And I understand that all the states were doing that at the time to protect the kids. But Michigan did it so much longer than all the other states. So much longer. And watching especially my athletic friends in high school get their athletic careers destroyed, even though they all followed the health protocols. None of them had COVID. They were tested. Watching their careers, their athletic careers get demolished was so sad to see. So sad. She should not be allowed to serve in public office again. She ignored the science. She ignored the recommendations. As you can see, I'm biased, and there's a reason I do not like Gretchen Whitmer that much because of what she did to my siblings, my friends, and me personally, especially with the way she handled COVID. I can't. So sad.